Welcome to Leaders and Learners. My name is Tonya McKenzie, and you can find me at the intersection of public relations and leadership. Join us as we talk to organizational leaders, elected officials, experts, authors, artists, and personalities, sharing their stories, talking about how they got to where they are and how they continue to learn and lead the way. So without further ado, let's get into it. Greetings, good people. It's your girl T. Welcome back to my community where we're talking about Southbay. So we do our Southbay update today, and we have some more incredible residents. They're very consistent because they stay on it. They stay reading on it, showing up, finding out what's going on, active in our community. And that is what we need. We need community engagement if you ever want change. If you want to see things turn around, you want to see things improve, community engagement is really the only way to make that happen. You can't wait for somebody to tell you what's going on. You have to find out for yourself, read up on things, or make sure you join us so that we can keep you informed. But if your community is somewhere other than the South Bay, I highly advise that you get connected to people that will keep you in the loop to know what's going on, what's consequential in your city council, in your county government agencies that are making decisions for your daily lives, your in day and out day live, what's going on with your kids in the community, the programs, the commerce. That means where you're shopping and where you're buying things. We want you to stay involved because we know how important it is to know what is going on in your community. So today I got my neighbor, Paul Moses here. How you doing, Paul?
Good to see you.
Yeah, always good to see you. I always feel like even it might have been a week or two. I feel like it's been like 6 months since we talked. I don't know why. Probably because there's always so much going on. So let's go ahead and get into what's new with you. What do you know? I want to jump into this though, because I have gotten some questions about GPAC. Now people are starting to ask me, what is that? And how long has it been going on? And then what's next? So I figure since I have you on today, we can actually get more into what is GPAC? Why are we doing this? Why did the city pay for us to have GPAC? What are we doing? Tell the people what's going on, what it is.
Okay, so for the public, both Tonya and I are members of the GPAC. I was appointed by Mayor Aspel as one of the representatives. There's 27 of us that were originally appointed, and it was a process that started over 6 years ago. And the city had allocated 1 year of time and $1 million to revamp and update the general plan for the city. The general plan for the city is just a zoning plan for the entire city that we were tasked to update and revise any of the problems that we saw over the years. This process happens about every 20 to 25 years. It started off well-intentioned, but it soon got bogged down with certain members really arguing every point, the process of everything. So it was a very slow, long slog. But we eventually got through everything. For the most part, all the residential areas in the city were untouched, but the corridors through the city had been updated, and we made some progress in some areas. And really left areas that should have been updated were either outside of our mandate or they got outvoted basically by NIMBYs on the GPAC that didn't want to see any change. So we have this final general plan that's going to be the final meeting is January 31st, and it'll be a draft of the entire plan, which is thousands of pages. And it'll go to the planning commission where I'm sure they will screw it all up.
Listen, most people don't understand why the zoning has to happen. Because before this, I just thought if a city wanted to put in a park, a library, fix the roads, open them up, make them thinner, I just thought those were decisions that, I don't know, just city council made on its own. But clearly that's not it. So explain what that looks like, why zoning is important.
The city can make variances on certain zonings, especially for residents. They want to make something that's maybe not conforming in every way. They can offer variances for small little things, like somebody wants to put a window on one side of their building, and that's actually some rule makes it impossible for them to do that. They can get a variance. It's important because it can create, especially along the corridors, it can create business corridors or commerce corridors where people want to see that. People don't want to see gas stations right in the middle of residential areas. So the zoning doesn't allow those type of things. People don't want to see 15-story buildings in a R1 neighborhood. So the zoning does not allow that. And that's why we have zoning. There are cities that have no zoning, and you get some pretty crazy city plans. When it's thought out and when it's considered, you can make a city really prosper with its zoning if it's done correctly. That's why it's important. And the residents have a say on this. The residents will vote on this entire plan. There's going to be a lot of things in it that they may not like. So I don't have much hope that they're going to approve it. But it's necessary, and all cities do it that have general plans. And that's why they wanted people, and we took 6 years because we considered all the possibilities for certain areas in the city to either improve what they've got or completely try something new, because it's what we have is not working.
The city's plans, the GPAC can also map out, or city planning can also map out the aesthetics of a city, right? So what it looks like if you have a certain aesthetic that you've designated for a certain area, this guy can't go, I don't know, paint his home purple. He can't just do what he wants to do in an area that has a designation for even aesthetics. Is that correct?
That's not necessarily enough for the general plan. Zoning, you might be talking about codes and building codes.
Okay.
They're different. And we tried to, we couldn't actually put in building codes for certain things like that. Aesthetics are very arbitrary, and they're impossible to zone, and they're impossible actually enforced by code, it seems like. But what the zoning does is it can improve a city in that it uses the space it has to the highest best use and the most efficiently. One of the examples is lack of parking in certain areas of PCH. There were lots that were zoned for only one use. The GPAC that we discussed and we approved, I believe, parking, what do they call parking areas. Basically, they can use this lot for something other than what it's being used for or can be used for, to improve what's there already. And that's what it is. It was just, it's a big exercise in efficiency when it comes to the commerce side of the city. The residential side, again, I don't think we really touched on that. There were some areas that were opportunities for expanding residential, but they were removed from our mandate. We could not discuss those things because basically the rules that were set out kind of rigged the game from the get-go.
So why were there areas that we couldn't discuss? What were those areas, and why were they off limits if we were looking at zoning?
Well, the main one is basically AES. And at the time, they thought maybe AES was going to do one thing or another, but it really never should have been outside of our purview to consider what the people wanted there. There's an argument to be said that, the majority of the people want this or the other. It doesn't matter. We should have discussed it. We could have discussed and opened up any possibility. It's unfortunate that even having discussions like that in the city is really something that is taboo for our mayor. He removed two sitting planning commissioners who wanted to discuss residential on AES, and they got booted off the commission just for discussing it. So it was a shame that we never got to talk about that. And I think it contributed to the situation that we're in now, that we're going to have residential basically forced upon Redondo by a state mandate.
One of the things I saw in your background is that you know a lot about public art. Tell us about that.
I worked on my first public art project in 1983. It went into the place called St. Joseph, Michigan. And I've been involved in public art for decades in all aspects of it. Creating proposals for cities. I was the vice chairman of the Public Art Commission for 8 years when it first started. I was on the public art task force that created the ordinance that created our public art commission. And I had been pushing for public art well before we even talked about it in Redondo Beach, and supported previous mayors that they wanted to do it. Some of them thought it was a great idea until Mayor Steve Aspel actually put it on paper and he solidified it. If you look at the ordinance, there's sections that I literally wrote myself. And one of the aspects of it is the ordinance, the funding mechanism, which creates the public art fund where we get the money to build these projects. It harnesses development to 1% of the valuation of the project. So, but the great thing about it is our ordinance is one of the strongest in the nation. It's any project that's valued over $250,000. 1% of that goes to the public art fund, or there's a 1% fee that goes to the art fund. That captures money from commercial projects, but also CIP projects, which are city projects, and residential projects, which is a big surprise. Most cities don't have that, but it was a way to say, look, if we're going to have a lot of development in this city, let's use it. Let's use it for the residents and harness that power of that to fund a really robust public art program, which we're now starting to see the dividends from. We have $1 million public art fund, and it's only going to grow because of the prospect of really major development within the city. So anyway, so I worked on that side of the table. So I selected some of the biggest public art projects in Redondo, including one that was recently talked about in the city council. But I've also built more than several projects from Key West, Florida to Chicago. I've worked with a number of artists. We had a project that went into the airport in Doha. I worked with a project in San Diego, which was valued at $30 million. It was a major artist for a major company, but it was actually a public art project by an artist named Jenny Holzer. She's probably one of the 10 top artists in the United States. So I'm pretty deeply immersed in this, and it's something that everything kind of slips away. When I think about public art, I stop thinking about anything, one side or the other within our city. Public art benefits everybody, and it's a great way for a community to show what they value.
So that was going to be my question. My firm, Sand & Shores, we work primarily with, nonprofit and civic organizations. We have to tell their story. What is the story that I tell constituents, trying to get them to understand why public art is so important, or why their donations to a public art piece would be important? What do you say about that?
Okay, so the public does not donate to the public art fund. It is developers, and only developers. And that money is earmarked only for public art. It can't be used on anything else. A lot of people want to use the money for playgrounds. There's a lot of protections. And again, a part of the ordinance, which I wrote, because I've seen public art funds get raped by city councils and used on benches and planners and things that are non-art. So it's important because it shows what the city values. And if it values aesthetics over just development, and it also forces, and I've seen this, what's happening up in the at the Galleria, it makes developers consider the aesthetics of their project, and it gives them, they actually put it as an opportunity. It's not a burden. It's not a fee that makes their job harder or eats away at their budget. It's a real opportunity for them to build artwork that becomes placemakers, that becomes someplace that people will seek and find. And it also builds a portfolio which can become an asset to the city. And I think we have an opportunity to actually do that. And people say, it's just, whatever it is. But believe me, Chicago has the largest sculpture made by Picasso. It was, there's no value you could put on that. And they're very proud of it. And it's because of a public art program. That's why they have it.
So residents would just need to support that on budgets when they see it come up, or maybe even ask for more. Yeah.
They just need to keep the ordinance in place. The ordinance works automatically, and really politicians cannot screw with it. And they all like it because suddenly it provides, it's a big fund, and it provides opportunity for people to create projects and put them in certain areas. And you're seeing that right now. there's kind of a scramble for our current council try to complete some public art projects and some other improvement projects, because they really haven't done much in 4 years or even 8 years. So they're trying to complete those things. That's and then there's the upside of it. They are good for the community. Most people, 90% of people, think it's a good thing. And when they understand it is not taxpayer money, it is developer money that goes to pay for these things, then they start saying, oh, I like it.
Got it. Yeah, that's a lot of information. I like that. I appreciate you sharing that with us. We have a resident, Mariam Butler. Hey, Mariam, how are you?
Hi, everyone. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So, as a resident, how do you feel about public art? Do you think they're doing a good enough job with public art? Would you like to see more? Like, what are your thoughts? And did you know it was that important?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think art is very important. It adds beautification to the city. Um, I started getting kind of interested in art when I think it was last year or the year before 2022, I think. I was listening to a council meeting where they were discussing the Gateway of Art structure, which was commissioned for District 4, and that's where I live in North Redondo Beach. And conversation all of a sudden came up where they said, it's commissioned for District 4, it's supposed to be at the transit center, but it's going to be tucked away. People aren't going to be able to see it. The only people, by the way, let me preface this with, the council person for District 4 is Zain Obaji. And it was him that said that the only people that would be able to see the Gateway of Art structure would be the people that use the bus, right? Obviously, this was commissioned back in 2011 specifically for that transit center. Near the transit center in North Redondo. It's on Kingsdale, close to the Southbay Galleria. So it's called the Gateway of Art structure. It was commissioned specifically for District 4 to be placed at that transit center. And in 2022, the council decided, this is such a great structure. Essentially, the people using the bus would be the only ones that could see it. It'll be tucked away. So why don't we move it over to, South Redondo? And that's essentially what's happened. We desperately want and need beautification and art in North Redondo. Yet this structure that was supposed to be for North Redondo has now, the council voted to put it at some parkette at the end of Redondo and Harbor Drive, or I don't even think it's parkette, it's like a green area, I'm not sure. So that essentially it would be right on that border of Redondo and Hermosa. And I do want to say that there's already an art structure at PCH and I think it's like 190th/Anita. So they already have art down there. And I just felt like it was very unfair to take something away from North Redondo and put it in South Redondo, where they already have several things. For example, at the police station, there's an art mural at the police station. So why is it that it's okay to put an art mural at the police station where the only people that would see it are the people that are going to the police station? I mean, it's not like where everyone can see it, right? But yet when we have something in North Redondo, that not a lot of people would see except the people riding the bus, which that is such elitism. That is so rude. Just because you ride the bus means that you don't deserve to be able to see something beautiful. I just think that's horrible. And by the way, this is our council person. He should be advocating, and he should be even to say like, hey, fine, we don't want to put it there. There's a green area on the corner of Grant and Inglewood. It could have been placed right there. It could have been placed in another part of North Redondo, District 5 somewhere, where people coming, off the freeway or somewhere, or from Manhattan Beach would be able to, we're coming into Redondo. Here's this art structure. So I'm so frustrated by what has happened lately with that. I just wanted to come on here and make it public knowledge so that when it does come time to vote, in a year from now, that we are really thoughtful about who we vote for, because we really want to make sure that we're voting for people that are putting the residents' best interest at heart and really thinking about what's best for that district and not, what's best for their buddies in another district.
So here's the thing, and
let
this is
me-
why I really want to, really quick, I just want to go over some history, because we know politicians switch sides. They switch their, I don't know, reasons why they do things. They say yes over here and then no, no later. So let's talk just a little bit about how we got here, and then Paul, I'll let you comment because I know that you are well versed on these things. But obviously, in 2011, when Mayor Mike Ginn was here, and there were council members that voted for this. That was Steve Asfel, Steve Dills, Bill Brand, Matt Kilroy. And this was approved, and this was something that was supposed to happen. But it looks like current Mayor Brand is someone that actually supported this being in North Redondo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He voted yes.
And now he's saying, what's he saying now?
Well, okay, I was the vice chairman of the Public Art Commission.
Okay. Give us some context.
We selected that artist. We selected Volcano Conaglu to build the gateway for the transit center. And this actually the idea was hatched in 2009. It was one of the first things we did as the Public Art Commission, as the very first Public Art Commission. We're very excited about it. It was an $87,000 project back then, and the money came from actually the development of the transit center and some regional money. So it was even before we had a public art ordinance in place. Originally the transit center faced Artesia Boulevard. And the idea was to put it in front of the art transit center on Artesia. That moved. In the project just languished for a long time, as so many things do in Redondo. And then it got moved to where it is on Kingsdale, and then the artwork for the building got moved up toward the curb more, so they couldn't put the artwork in the front of the building, and so they decided to move the artwork to the back of the building where the buses park. All those decisions were made without the Public Art Commission's knowledge, or it just made at the administration level because of all the changes, what happened to the transit center. It didn't change the intention of the project. It didn't change that when the Art Commission back then, the original Art Commission had some very professional people on it. The intention was to work with the transit center. It was a gateway to the city and welcome people to the city who just got off a bus ride so they could see something nice and know that, okay, Redondo values artwork right when they get off the bus. And that's why it was always intended to stay at the transit center. When the conversation came up to move the artwork, I did speak in front of the council to say, this is not the intention of the project. I didn't want to jeopardize the viability of the project by, demanding one thing or another. I wasn't on the Public Art Commission anymore at that time. But it was not the intention of the project at the time to stay at the transit center. So it did get moved. And a lot of, it's been over a decade. The budget grew tremendously because the artist things cost more. And he was actually working in Los Angeles at the time. Now he lives in Portland, Oregon. He has a studio and he has to pay his apprentices to build that. Whereas before he had student labor that build the artwork for free. That's why he could apply such a large artwork to a small budget. So now the budget's $275,000. It got moved to the parquet down at the furthest westernmost, corner of Redondo. And that's just the way it is. It doesn't comply with the original intention of the project. Strangely enough, the space where it was going to go at the transit center is now being considered for a public art project. Wow. It's a good spot for it. So it seems kind of ridiculous, but again, politicians see these things as opportunities to build a resume. And so they want to snatch it away and put it one place or another for their political future. And it's not uncommon, but it's a shame that it happens.
What are your thoughts?
Oh, sorry. Snatch it away is a good term. And that's how it felt. We've been pushing so hard in North Redondo for beautification, for attention, for improvements. Let's see, what have we gotten on Artesia Boulevard recently? Another smoke shop. We already have 4. Thanks. Okay, now we have another one.
Maybe they consider that art.
Well, in last week's, not last night's, but last week's city council meeting was primarily about public art. That's all they talked. They talked about this project and the gateway coming to the parquet. But then they also talked about Artesia Boulevard and the public art policy that they're trying to instill up there. Again, back when I was on the council, we created the public art master plan. Out of the 20 places that we said public art should go, and these are our suggestions and should be made priority by the city council, 17 of them are on Artesia Boulevard. The first one was the Performing Arts Center, where we got Gordon Huther to build the wall art there, the wall sculpture called Waves, and that was a $225,000 project. That got done. It got done just by the Public Art Commission doing its job and doing it correctly. It's a slam dunk that went to the council. But then they went on and spoke about the Artesia corridor. There are numerous opportunities up there. That should be a corridor, and again, just the street of Redondo. And public art is where this starts. They could build a million things on the medium. They have the money for it. They have other budgets they can use to create a real public art corridor up there, and it's a good start. Now, I will say about public art, the first project I worked on went into a city called St. Joseph, Michigan, that was very, very depressed, and people thought it was insane. They were spending money on public art. And this was a sculpture that basically went on inside a traffic circle in a pretty beat up town. It showed the community that the government is trying to do something to improve your quality of life and improve the aesthetics around you. I had the opportunity about a decade ago to go back to St. Joseph, Michigan, and the city is thriving. And I'm not going to put it all in their public art, but it was the shift in the government to say, we want to respond to the community and we want to show the community that we actually care.
We might need to get into this on our next show, but I had a situation this weekend, which it's not new to Redondo, but it was new for me having to face it. And I would love your thoughts, because I really feel like our local government is not giving us what we need as residents. And it's not being spiteful. It's the fact that I went to our mayor years ago when I first moved here, and I told him one of the first pieces of information I got about Redondo Beach, it was actually beach cities altogether, but I know for sure Redondo, because I live here, does not have enough going on for our young people. We just don't. And the statistics show that we have a very high level of anxiety, and we had an increasing number of students using drugs and drinking alcohol. This weekend, I did not let my son go to a house party that a lot of kids in Redondo went to. And at the end of the party, there were some kids that couldn't make it home. Let's just say that. I am so absolutely frustrated because I had a conversation with my son, and he's like, Mom, well, what do you want us to do? Like, where do you want us to go? He didn't go out, but the conversation was basically like, what are y'all doing? And he's like, well, what do you want us to do? We ain't got no programs. Their mall, we have no mall. And Paul, if you could speak on why our mall looks incredibly decrepit and how it even got that far. I know for a fact that it had to do a lot with lack of decision making with our council. It's gross. I saw Champs leaving. Like, it's one of the last mainstream stores that's leaving this mall. He's like, we can't go to the mall. We ain't got nothing around here. So when they had an opportunity to do something for our city, they gave us skate parks. Kids can't just go hang out at skate parks all the time. And half these kids don't even skate. So the programming, there's just nothing for them. And when I went to this man and I asked him to please do something, he said, I'm not really good with the whole kids thing. Why don't you do something? And then, I'll support. That's not my job. It's not my goddamn job. That's your job. You and your people, your leadership, it's y'all's job to make sure that services are here for the people that live here. It has not happened. And now we are in a space where things are just increasingly getting worse for our young people. So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, the situation we are in now is just an example of a government that stopped caring about its community. They've really made a priority of special interest in their own personal agenda. It's really, really sad. And for a community by the beach, which should be thriving, we don't have these programs for children. I don't have children, but I know the situation and I've seen it. Yeah, and I grew up here. So it used to be the Gallery Marl was a place that people went. Kids went all the time. In fact, kids went all the time when I was in high school. Because there was a theater there and there was things to do, and there's still a theater there, but it's dying on the vine. The unfortunate thing about it is that there were big grand designs to improve that mall immensely, just completely revamp it. And they got stymied by NIMBYs in the community because they had added a residential component to the mall area, the zoning for the mall. By the way, that was done by the previous GPAC 25 years ago. They put a bunch of zoning for housing on the mall area, thinking, oh, they'll never build housing up there. But sure enough, they took advantage and things changed and priorities changed. So that mall got just for years, it was met with just nothing but resistance. You had companies that wanted to invest millions of dollars at that mall, and they got stopped. And they're still being stopped because now the mall has just become a crime magnet. No one's investing in there, and so it's hard for them to attract new tenants. And they have to achieve a certain amount of tenancy to get the funding, the financing for their project and their ideas. And they're in a real tough situation because they have all these great plans to build up that mall and make it something that the whole community can enjoy, because they're going to redesign the whole thing. There's going to be a big public area for people to hang out in, and there is a very large public art component to that. And there is going to be a large residential area that is going to feed the commerce at that. They actually shrink the footprint of the mall. So again, it got stopped, and with the cooperation of the city council majority, and now we're in the situation we are. It's terrible up there, and I don't know. They're really in a tough spot because they can't get the funding that they want. They can't get the financing because they don't have enough tenants at the mall. And they're trying to attract more tenants, but it's just like this defeating downward spiral.
It's very entertaining that they don't want to take responsibility for keeping development from happening, when that's going to be Bill Brand's legacy, is making sure that nothing ever happened here. And now
that's always been their problem.
And now our kids are suffering for it.
They disguise it as anti-traffic, or they're anti-development, which is anti-progress. But now the chickens come home because if you do that, the money from that commerce doesn't show up in the city coffers. We don't have any money. The city's run out of money. We can't do even simple things we want to do. We can get back into that and the tiniest little public projects they're trying to achieve right now, because hey, it's coming up on election time, and they got to be able to point to something that they've done, something concrete that they've actually achieved in the city. They've managed to stop a lot of things, and a lot of big things that have had huge implications on our city budgets. But now it's like, okay, well, you guys stopped everything and you screwed up the general plan to make it not generate money, basically, again, another way to stop development. But now, yeah, the bank account is starting to run dry.
Mariam?
Yeah, it's just too bad, because it's a good point about the mall. The mall is pretty dead and unsafe in general. I mean, I like trying to go to the movies there. I have seen a few movies there in the last year or whatever, but it is known as being a crime magnet in the parking lot, especially. It's not safe to park your car. I do see when you go into the leasing office, Al Catterton, they have their design for the mall. But I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know how long it's going to take. I'm not sure about their financing. Before Al Catterton, it was another company. And then due to COVID and things like this, yeah, they couldn't do it. So now Al Catterton took over, and how long that's taking, it's taking forever. I don't see very much progress. to me, I'm not too sure because they just resurfaced all that area over by like the Nordstrom Rack and things like that. So to me, it looks like nothing's going to be built for a long time if they're spending money on resurfacing and trying to update some of the stuff there. So that's that part. The other part is the pier. I mean, it's so sad. Look at Manhattan Pier. Look at Hermosa Pier. It's thriving and businesses want to open up there. And here in Redondo, businesses don't want to open on Artesia. That's why the only business that we can get is a smoke shop, because the reputation of Redondo Beach is that they're anti-business. So businesses that might want to open on Artesia are hesitant, or they don't, because they know that, you know, there's a lot of blockades, and that's why we see what we see on Artesia. That's why the mall is the way it is, and that's why our pier is the way it is. You know, there's no reason for our Redondo Beach Pier not to just be the place to go, a fun place. But I mean, me, my friends, I'm involved in at the elementary school. You know, I'm involved with a lot of parents. I do a lot of stuff in the community. I volunteer, I do all these things. Nobody is going to that pier. Every time people are like, let's go to Manhattan. Let's meet up at Vista and Hermosa. That's where people want to go. And, you know, it's always me being like, well, hey, why don't we go to Panella's? Or, you know, I'm always trying to engage people to, and we actually have something called Dine Around, where, you know, it's a group of us that every month we try to go to a restaurant in North Redondo with the intention of bringing with the intention is to bring attention to those businesses and to bring some money, right? Like we spend money there. Went to Havana Mania the other day. I didn't go, but the group went to Havana Mania. Before that, went to Bamboo. Before that, went to Lobster Guys that I went to. It was really fun. Georgia's. So we're trying to go to all these different places once a month. And, you know, many times folks will be like, well, why don't we go to South Redondo, or why don't we go to, you know, Hermosa? And it's like, no, the intention is to bring business and things like that to North Redondo. So we're trying our best. But the truth is that until we have a leadership in place, and it can't just be Paige of District 3, it has to be all of them. Until they are really focused and want to give attention to North Redondo, it's just not going to happen. That's why we have to really think about who we're voting for in this next election, because with the current leadership, with Bill Brand, with Todd Lowenstein, Nils Narenheim, and Obaji, who votes with them, even though he's in North Redondo, he votes with them as a block, they have been able to get a lot of stuff for the south part of the city, right? Alta Vista Park has the community garden. They have, I mean, the village looks great. I used to live essentially in the Riviera Village on Calle Miramar back when my husband and I first got married in 2013. I lived there. And they had some bars, they had some restaurants. It was fine. It was fun. But when you go there now, it is hopping. There's so much fun things to do. It's grown exponentially in terms of places to go and things to do in the Riviera Village. Well, that's because they have the support of the leadership, and they have a good leadership in place. But you have to have leadership support in order to get that growth. And that's what we really need in North Redondo. We need more attention, and we need the focus to be in North Redondo. But when you have a mayor who's been to North Redondo maybe one time, two times in however many years, it's just not going to happen. So
yeah, you're right. Well, we will continue these conversations, bringing the updates to the community and the South Bay. I want to thank you both for being here, sharing your knowledge, especially the public art piece. I hope everybody learned something, because I did. And we need to continue to stay involved, stay informed, and stay on their necks so that we can get them to do the things that need to be done for this community. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you. Now, really quick, though, I want to go ahead and just share a few updates with you good people. I know that, let's see, we have an amazing resident who has a program. So for those of you that do have kids and you are always looking for something to do for your young people, I want you to head over to local anchor. She has things for parents, and she also has things for business women. And today, her name's Laura. Today, we have tips to get the most out of business networking event. So head over to Local Anchor. Make sure, if you can, you sign up for her vision board workshop and some other events that she has coming up. So that is by Local Anchor. Make sure you get tapped in to Local Anchor and what they have going on. Okay. And lastly, let's see. I am a part of, for those of you that love football, I'm a part of a group called Football is Sexy, and they are having an amazing Super Bowl event. It's actually out in Pasadena, but anyone in South Bay that wants to go, the tickets are $10. It's going to be amazing. It's a Super Bowl party with the Footballer Sexy ladies, and I think it's going to be a good time. I don't leave out the bubble too often, but I think this is an opportunity to join some more. And there's other South Bay ladies that are in this group. So head on out, check that out. Yeah. Other than that, I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up, getting informed, getting information that helps you be a better resident. But civic engagement is where it's at, guys. If you don't know what's going on in your community, you can't get mad when things are happening that you did not participate in. You have to voice your concerns, tell them what you need, and hold them to account. All right? So until next time, see you later. Hey, thanks for showing up to the podcast where we all know that the best leaders are lifetime learners. When you get a sec, take a moment, leave a comment. What you think about today's episode, and share it with someone that you know could use the gems that were dropped today. Follow and subscribe. You don't want to miss who's coming up next. You never know who could show up here and what they could say. For your professional needs, marketing, PR, communications, and leadership, make sure you follow us on all social media platforms at Sand and Shores, or hit us up at sandandshores.com. Again, thanks so much for showing up. We appreciate you, and we'll see you soon.